Sony seems to be having a not so great time right now. They are doing their level best to match Ubisoft step for step in the world of gaming releases, and they have succeeded most recently with a game everybody expected to be better off on Steam, Lego Horizon Adventures. Boy, were they wrong. Let's talk about it. Hi, friends. It's me, CC, here with two of the probably most educated gamers I know. We have, a big team full of them, but we've got Loki here with us right now. And of course, Nolan Thunder to talk a little bit about Legos. Not Legos per se, but Lego video games, which are almost always awesome. And they're aimed at basically every age. I'm not sure that either of those criteria fit this particular one because, you know what? I'm just going to show you. In another black eye for Sony, Lego Horizon Adventures debuts to even less Steam players than Concord.
Oh, she's got that oh my look on her face. Yeah, that ain't good. That ain't good.
No. I think this is a weirdness as far as I'm concerned. This never happens. And something being worse off than Concord, well, I mean, at least we got the right writer. We got Nicola over there at Bounding Into Comics telling us all about what happened. Well, we know what happened. This game, leaned too far into the DEI and other baloney sausage and wanted to deliver the message in a game where, they made this any other game associated with Horizon look like garbage with their updates. This thing, I don't know. Let's jump in. So believe it or not, Concord is no longer Sony's least played game of the year, which is incredible. Despite having both an established IP, one of the world's biggest toy brands attached to the name, Lego Horizon Adventures, has actually managed to underperform the now shuttered hero shooter and, gutted and tax write-off shooter, Concord. That's right. For those unaware, Lego Adventure is a condensed and far more light-hearted retelling of Horizon Zero Dawn's story, which trades in its source title's open world gameplay for more linear levels and an abundance of humor. That is kind of the hallmark of Lego games, wouldn't you say, gentlemen?
It's supposed to be.
Absolutely. If anyone's played the original Lego Star Wars games back in the day, there was comedy all throughout, and it was very well executed. Even in the older games where the characters didn't even talk, and the later ones they even gave them full-blown voice acting. And actually, even if you're someone who's not real big on certain, say, the prequel movies, the sequels, it gave reason for everybody to laugh, even if you're just a casual game player.
I'm still angry we never got our Hobbit. Our last Hobbit game, we got the first two, but we never got the last one. I'm still angry about that, but there's a lot of fun there with the Harry Potter games, with the Star Wars games, with Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit. They've done all kinds of fun stuff. I don't understand what this could be about.
Neither do I, except that I think that they lost sight of the fact that the classic and amazing Lego Batman is still one of the only ways to play Batman, in my opinion. Regardless, this game moved forward in a weird way, and despite it being a family-friendly outing, as weird as it sounds in the face of the post-apocalyptic setting, and holding a not great but not terrible 71% on Metacritic, the game's Steam release was utterly failed to bring in not just young players, but any players. And we're looking at the chart here, which we've been looking at for a couple of minutes. If you've been paying attention, it debuted to the Valve-owned storefront of Steam on November 14th. That's a while ago. So it's had a chance to rack up some numbers. As we're recording this, it's over a week. It's actually 10 days. And by the time you see this, it's probably closer to 2 weeks. So when you look at this chart and the players that they had on at the time that this was screenshot, it had 117 people playing. How's that possible? It just got released to PC. Well, in 24 hours, it had only had 217. And on debut day, which had been 5 days prior, it had 602. This is a real problem. Concord's total peak at its absolute best was 697. This is far less than that. This is 95 people less than that. And as a percentage, it's a significant percentage less than Concord, and it's absolutely disgusting.
You know what this tells you? This tells you that the adults didn't show up. Okay, so if you've got maybe I'm sure they've got better sales on PS5, but for PC, none of the adults showed up. What does that mean? That means you've lost the male adolescent. You've lost the male adolescent. You've lost the male in his 20s. You've lost the females. You've lost the majority of your adult customers. And why has that happened? Well, just look at the new remake, look at what they did in 2, and look at what they've done with Alloy, and the fact that they're still trying to shove her down your throat. And that'll tell you exactly why you've lost most of the adult.
Yeah, and as a channel that's now been established for a little while, I'll just point to the fact that we've watched a lot of state of play events and other things that, feature some of this stuff. And it's basically turned most of us off and into being more cynical about the upcoming games that are being made, remade, or gaining sequels. I don't know that I can even disagree with what you said, Loki. And Nolan, do you think that the younger audience is playing on consoles and everybody else is just after witnessing that, decided they're not on board for spending more money on PC?
Well, I'd say due to the nature of it being a Lego game, I think there's a strong argument to be made that there's going to be bigger Switch sales for this game than there will be on PC. PS5, it's a little more murky in the waters there. But I have to ask, though, with the storied history of the Lego games, like going back, we were talking about Batman, Star Wars, The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. These are all multi-million billion-dollar franchises. It makes sense why Lego would want to attach itself to those IPs. When you think about the big hot game of the holiday season for the kids, Horizon is just not the name I think of. I would think of like Fortnite, or even something like Ghostbusters, which has a greater attachment to, say, the 1980s, those who grew up in that era. Horizon, I don't think I've ever once in my life seen a kid wearing a Horizon shirt. I'm more likely to see a kid in a Beatles shirt than Horizon. I don't get this big push for her with Legos. Not saying Horizon is a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but it's like, did they really think this would be a sales juggernaut?
They want her. Sony wants her to be Sony's premier character. This is the poster child for PS5 and forward. This is what they want on the front of their boxes. Her. So I guarantee you they made some kind of deal with Lego and said, this is what we want to push it and make the game. And they did.
Well, and here's the interesting thing that's presented by Bounding into Comics author Nicola. However, one would assume, would be remiss to not point out that despite this trend, other Lego titles, and to make things fair to Horizon, specifically those that don't have major cultural IP attached to them, have still managed to post higher peak player counts, including Brick Tales, which was 739, Lego 2K Drive, which was 1,039, the Lego Ninja Go movie video game was 5,400, meaning that when it comes to Lego Horizon Adventures, interest is low even among older, longtime franchise fans. That's kind of weird. I mean, perhaps Steam will never be a place for Lego games. I don't know.
No. They've got a whole library culture. Steam is all, and they're successful. They are very successful. They've got a lot of Lego games, almost all of them. They've got all the Batman games, the, like I said earlier, the Lord of the Rings. They've got almost all of them. Steam is, you can get all the old Star Wars stuff. All of it is still on Steam, and that's pretty much the only way to get those now is to get them through Steam, because the old 360 versions and all that, they're just gone. They're gone to time unless you have a hard copy.
Very true. And you have to wonder, like, how the accessibility would be, to the younger audiences and stuff. I'm kind of curious of, like, even if you go to look at Lego as a concept itself, we're talking about all the games that are released on Steam. I don't know if either of you two ever played, like, the Lego Island games back that came out during the 90s on PC. Those were brands, that really embraced the fact that they were Legos. You could, like, the worlds were very reminiscent of what you would buy in the stores. Whereas like this, when I think Horizon, I just don't see it as a like, oh, could you imagine this big world as Legos? I just don't think it has that kind of draw appeal. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, seeing all the other games on Steam, how those in the long term compare to the sales of this one, even when they're like 20 something year old games at this point.
Yeah, you make a good point. And then you also have like the fact that everybody here in this article is pointing to the fact that the story left something to be desired. The playable characters that were added, the three, plus a lot of like not so subversively playful kinds of entertainment that you used to get out of the original games. This left a lot to be desired. But I think more importantly, and this is something that I don't think we focused on yet, is the pricing. Apparently, it's 70 euros or $60 American. It's one of the more expensive Lego titles, such as Lego Harry Potter collection, which was priced at 40 and features content of 2 full entries. So this is how, I mean, they really are thinking that this Horizon title was going to be, the bee's knees. Um, and many other Lego games fall somewhere between 10 to 50. So Aloy's Adventure, which clocks in with a runtime of just under 10, it's got 10 hours. You're paying $6 an hour for this game. Why do I feel like I'm getting fleeced at a Disney park? Anyway, in another compounding Lego Horizon Adventures problems, there's also the fact that Sony hasn't given up on their plan to require a PlayStation Network account for all of their games, which not only turns players off of their titles but also bars their sale in more than 160 countries. So they've done it to themselves. And Steam's not going to change, and the consumers aren't going to change. They're sick and tired of having to be connected to some baloney sausage that's going to definitely try to censor them in some way or control how they access their game. It's the same reason why all of us are frustrated with, um, uh, the live service games. It's just we're done. We're done with it all. Anyway, this story goes on. It's well worth the read. I guess overall Horizon in some form has sold over 30 million copies. So the Lego adaptation, I don't know if it was ever going to go anywhere ever, because I think, as one of you mentioned, it's maybe oversaturated the market. Regardless, I'm going to give you guys some final thoughts here on the collapse and complete destruction of this game at its launch. We'll start first with Nolan. Nolan, let me know what you think about this launch at less than 1,000 people, or gosh, even less than Concord number.
Well, all I could say is I hope they're having fun, because it's probably gonna be a very lonely party they're a part of right there. It still baffles my mind that this game even exists. I feel like this game is going to become one of those, like, you're watching a YouTube video in 5 years. It's like, hey, remember this secret gem here in Lego Horizon? Because we haven't even really touched much on the game's quality as far as gameplay goes and stuff. We talked a little bit about, like, is there like some DEI issues with this game or whatever have you. But I'm sure by being a product of the Lego brand, it's probably a quality game that there could be a lot of fun to have. And I'm sure people who are into Horizon will probably get a real kick out of this. I just don't think the audience for this game is just as big as what Sony was hoping for. And I think with the way the current economy is right now, a lot of younger players who play Lego games, they got to ask their parents for this game for Christmas or something like that. And even if they get some money from their grandparents or something, wouldn't you rather use that money to get some of the toys based off Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which is coming out pretty soon, or Sonic Shadow Generations, the new Nintendo stuff? I just don't see how this is going to have a big draw going forward. It's probably going to be a niche title that people are going to remember a few years from now and get it on the cheap, but I just don't think it's going to have a long life ahead of it.
Well, just one thing in response before we move on to Loki's final word. I'm sorry, my friend. This is not ET for the Atari console. This is not going to suddenly rise up in the echelon as a mysterious gem. At least I don't think so. We'll see what those folks in the chat think. Loki, what do you think, my friend?
I would be more interested to buy a game based on that Hat Cameron's blue space tree hugging hippies than this game, than Horizon. So they have picked the wrong IP to do the game. Sony's like, we want her to be our poster child for Sony. Well, good for you guys. It should be Kratos. It should be something good. It should be something besides this. Because as soon as you started messing with the formula and they're like, we're going to make her ugly, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, it just kept going downhill. And now look at what they've got on their hands. Lego, next time, give us something we want. I'll even take Cameron's Blue Space Tree Hugging Hippies over this.
Okay, well, Lego Avatar it is. On that note, what is it for you out there in the lovely audience, all you supporters? What do you think? Do you think that this is just not a target audience for them? Do you think that the lack of consideration of how gamers feel about the Sony PlayStation Network play into it? Or do you think that this is just where things are headed because of the disdain that the gaming industry has had for the gamers for oh so long? Again, let us know those thoughts down in the comments section below. And as we always say, get your game on.